As you can see, the headstock and tailstock don't line up perfectly, and today I'm going to try and fix this. I believe that someone at some point in time cut a Morse taper 2 into this tailstock quill, and he or she messed up slightly. There's a couple of reasons why I think this quill has been tampered with. All tools don't sit deep enough, and hardly any will auto eject when turning back the tailstock. But the more important reasons is inside the quill there is a this is probably hard to catch on camera, but there is a ridge inside here that's offset to one side, and that's a clear indication that the taper has been cut at a slight angle. And there's another reason why I think this quill has been tampered with. I have another lathe that is similar to this one. The quill is a bit thinner, but it has the same issues. So the MT2 taper isn't long enough, and well, the finish on the taper is terrible. So that also looks like a home job gone wrong. Well, I'm already running into problems. First off, the keyway, I can't get it out, and second, the quill doesn't fit the throat of the chuck. So I think I will need to use my steady rest, and I never used a steady rest before. I guess there's a first time for everything. It'll probably be a nightmare to indicate. Well, I got it running pretty true, but look what happens when I move the indicator to the other end. That's not acceptable. This is very hard to set up, and I'm getting the impression that this chuck is bending the workpiece, or turning the workpiece to one side a bit, because I need to tighten these two up quite a bit to get this into alignment. Well, I'm switching to plan B, and plan B is trying to hand ream the taper using this machine reamer. See if I can improve things using plenty of oil. Pushing it in with the tailstock a bit. Oh, here we go. Pushing it in a bit further. There's already grindings, shavings, chips coming out there. Well, and I only moved in the tailstock maybe 5 times. Alright, let's take it out. Most of it was cut on this side. There's very little in the other grooves. The surface inside the quill looks a lot better now. So the cheap Chinese reamer did a decent job. So here we go. it isn't worse, but it also isn't right. Well, I was going to do some machine reaming on this old lathe, but I realized that I don't have a Morse taper 3 to Morse taper 2 adapter. So instead of indicating the quill back on the Chinese lathe, I'm now reaming it directly in place, which is probably better anyway. This works so much easier than on the cheap Chinese lathe. No carriage in the way. So I think I almost moved the tailstock forward, or the quill forward, one revolution of the handle here. No idea how much that is, but I'm pretty sure it's not enough. Only a few bits of grinding coming out. So I'm going to clean it up now, and then I'm going to test it. I just noticed that how nicely the tang of the reamer lines up with that center. I don't see any movement of the reamer in any direction when it's pushed onto the pointy bit. Looks promising. And the bloody thing is stuck in there. It turns easy enough, but there it is. And I don't think you're supposed to run this thing in the opposite direction. The chips will get underneath the cutting edges and damage the reamer. Alright, here we go again. Another test. I think I should fix the tailstock. Keep everything the same. Alright. You can see it's already sitting in a little deeper. I would say that's a bit better. Get back. Yeah, that's definitely better. Not perfect, but... Now let's see if it will auto eject. Well, that wasn't necessary. Lovely. I like it. I studied the inside of the quill again, and I can still see a raised edge on the, well, not all the way around, but from here to here, and is exactly how deep the reamer was cutting. So the front of the reamer was digging into the metal like a drill. So it is clearly not cutting on center, and the only explanation I can think of is if the bed was worn enough so that the tailstock was sitting a little lower than original. Well, that's the best explanation I can think of. I might drill out the quill a bit so that the front of the reamer isn't digging into the metal anymore. Well, I took a few measurements, and none of these tapered tools are long enough to reach the edge inside of the quill, so I'll leave it like this for now. So I think it's time to do a test. I don't know how good this drill chuck is. It came with the lathe and it was pretty well rusted. It already broke loose. That's not good. Yeah, that's better. A bit of oil for the headstock bearings, because I still haven't finished my oilers. Let's see how this goes. It looks like it moved, but I'm not sure. I'm staring at the camera screen. A lot of pressure is needed. This doesn't feel normal. Maybe the drill bit is dull. Or maybe this is very hard material. I don't know. The amount of resistance in the tailstock handle is pretty big. Maybe it needs some oil. Oh, it feels better. Yeah, it just needed some oil. Well, the center drill didn't break, so I'm calling this a success. A win. So while I was in the winning mood, I also did some work on the Smurf lathe tailstock, or the old Karger. The quill on this tailstock is about 3 millimeters thinner than the other one, and in fact the whole casting is thinner, lighter, but it fits the same ways and it has the same center height, so it should line up. Now I didn't cut the taper as deep as the other one because of the thinner tailstock, but I got lucky, it is already ejecting. So I'll leave it like this. It's not perfect. It's being pushed a bit that way, but I think this is because I managed to damage the point on this dead center. At least it's a hell of a lot better than it was before. So I'm calling this another win. This is turning out to be a good day. It was a lot more work to fix this quill. I needed to bore it out because the internal diameter wasn't big enough to fit more taper 2 tanks, and then I used the top slide or the cross slide to bore out the taper, and then I reamed it. Because of the thickness, no steady rest was needed. Alright, that's it for me. I'm gonna watch some telly. Whoa.